Hey guys, Varric here. So this video is going to be on Ji-Kun, the 6th boss in the Throne of Thunder. Now this boss is slightly different depending on what your role might be. And that's usually going to depend on what raid makeup you have. This fight strongly serves AoE type classes like hunters and even mages and warlocks to a certain extent. So more than likely, you're going to be on what they call the nest team, and I'll get into that in a minute. However, if you are lucky enough to get stuck on the platform and just DPS the boss, then things become quite simple. You just have to dodge a few abilities. I'll go ahead and go over the platform abilities, or what the boss's abilities are, and then I'll get into the whole nest deal, as that becomes a little bit more complicated. Now, the first ability on the platform that you need to look out for is called Quills. This is a 10-second cast, and it does, I think, about 130,000 damage per second. Meaning if you're not receiving direct heals or have some type of way to mitigate this damage, you're going to die pretty quickly. Good news is, because we're a hunter, we do have an ability called Deterrence that will mitigate the damage, at least for 5 seconds. Which is why I kind of recommend taking Crouching Tiger, Hidden Chimera, because you definitely want to have this up each quill. Especially if you're staying on the platform, and you'll have to deal with it every time. Just watch out for the timer when you see it about to come up. See DBM say Quills, just go ahead and hit your Deterrence, and you'll help your healers out quite a bit, as it does do a lot of damage, especially raid wide. The next ability, and probably the most annoying out of her abilities, is called Downdraft. Now this is an 8-second cast, and basically she'll just fly up and flap her wings real hard and create a big wind that will push you off the platform if you're not either if you're not close enough or you don't have some type of speed boost. Now, even if you get pushed off the platform, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to die. However, it does take about 15 seconds from the time you fall off to the time you're back on, because you do fall a good distance, and then the winds will kind of push you back up. However, there is kind of a hidden danger if it's timed wrong. Like if you get pushed off, you lose control of your character, obviously. And as you're coming back up, if she does cast Quills, you're going to be line of sight of the healers, which means they can't heal you. And as you're coming up, there's nothing you can do, and you're probably going to die. So, ideally, obviously, you don't want to get pushed off. You can help it. Now, there's a few things you can do. You can take Post-Haste as a talent if you want to. However, I still recommend taking Crouching Tiger, Hidden Chimera, because Quills is definitely the most dangerous. The strat that I use is basically when I see Downdraft about to come, I just try to run as close to her as I can get, and then just try to run against the wind. If you're close enough, you shouldn't get pushed off. However, if you're not close enough to her, you're a little closer to the edge than you should be, you probably will get pushed off. Unless you get lucky enough and get the some type of speed boost. I think it's the Druid speed boost. That'll actually keep you from going anywhere. You won't be able to run ahead, but you definitely won't get pushed back. So ideally, that's what you want if you're somehow not close enough to the boss. But again, it's more of an annoyance than anything. But just keep it in mind and watch the timer on it. The other ability that she does that you need to watch out for is Caw. Now this is a 2-second cast. It'll basically just target a couple of raid members, and it looks like a little sonic ring that will come at you. Now, if it lands on you, I think it does a little over 300,000 damage, so it's pretty significant damage. You definitely don't want to get hit by it. I think it has like an 8-yard radius when it lands, so if you see it coming at you, just try to run away from it. However, if there's a lot of stuff going on, you might get hit by it, and it obviously won't kill you unless you're really low on health, so just try not to get hit with it, because it does drain your healer's mana. The last ability that you really have to worry about on the platform is called Feed Young. Now, if you're on the platform, this Feed Young is slightly different than some of the other Feed Young, and I'll get into that in a minute. Basically, what you do is you'll just spit this like green slime in the air, and you just need to watch out for when it lands. It'll leave like a green pool on the ground when it does land. Now, if you walk over this, I believe it does like 80,000 damage if you walk over it. Again, it's not going to one-shot you, but just try to avoid it if you can. You obviously don't want to run over it if you can help it. But that's pretty much it on the platform. Now, if you are on the nest team, things get a little bit more complicated. Basically, when you land on the platform, if you look up and even below, you'll notice there's these little nests that are stationed around the area. On these nests, there's different types of adds, depending on lower or upper. The first nest will always spawn will be the one that's, as you land, will be your lower right nest. So right when the fight starts, you want to kind of be right on that edge of the platform. That way you can just kind of jump down on it instead of having to run over to it. You want to get down there as fast as possible. Reason being is when you land on the nests, there'll be usually 3 or 4 adds down there. Usually it'll be hatchlings. They don't have a lot of health. Depending on your DPS, they should die pretty quick. However, I do recommend taking Fervor and Barrage for this fight if you are on the nest team. Simply because Dire Beast doesn't do a lot. The adds don't live long enough. And having the extra focus for like multi-shots is pretty nice. But again, that's just a recommendation. Now, usually what will happen is right before the nest will spawn, Ji-Kun will do her Feed Young ability. Now, this one is slightly different than the Feed Young on the platform. Basically, she'll spit this at whatever lower nest is down, or which is active, excuse me. And if it lands on the nest and it hits, say, the hatchlings, they will eventually turn into fledglings. Now, the hatchlings really only do one ability, and that's called Cheap. It doesn't do a ton of damage. I think it's like 50,000 or something like that. It's not detrimental. Normally, your nest team would consist of a 2 DPS and a healer. Now, it's possible you may have 3 DPS, just depending on how well the DPS is, but usually if you have enough DPS, 2 DPS and a healer is plenty. So your healer should be able to heal you fine without really worrying about you dying. Although keep in mind that when you are on the nests, you will take quill damage. So on top of the getting hit with the cheaps and whatnot, you will take damage along with the quills. There's really no way to... You can't LOS, you can't outrange the quills. It will hit you wherever you're at in the arena. So it's really up to your healer to make sure that they're on top of that and they keep an eye on the timer. Now, the hatchlings will basically turn into the fledglings after if they receive the Feed Young buff. When she spits down, it will basically land on the nest. You'll see the graphic, and it will kind of evolve them to the fledglings. Now, if you don't kill the fledglings fast enough, then they will fly up to one of the main nests up at the top and lay an egg, which will become a kind of a problem later on. So ideally, you want to make sure you at least kill them, make sure the fledglings are dead before you leave the nest. Now, regardless of whether you kill the hatchlings or the fledglings, they will leave an item behind called a dandelion wing. Now, when you get this, it's like an extra action button. And when you click on it, you will get little wings on your back, and you'll have an 8-second ability to fly anywhere. Now, obviously, depending on how fast you kill the nest, especially the first nest, you could fly back up to the platform, get a little DPS time on Ji-Kun, and then go down to the next nest. Now, the next nest, usually what the order will be that you'll kill the first 3 lower nests. Now, if you're a little low on DPS or you're a little behind, you pretty much can fly from the first nest to the second lower nests. Basically what happens is you'll hit the lower nests, and then you'll do the same thing as you did the first nest. You'll kill the eggs, kill the hatchlings, or if she does feed young, you can just kill those, the fledglings. Now, there is an ability you can grab when she does feed young, at least to the nest. If you're quick enough, you can actually fly up through the feed young little ability that she spawns to the nest, and you'll gain a buff called Nutrient, which will increase your damage. I think it's by 20%. I'm not entirely sure. I forget. And it stacks during the fight. So each time you gain this ability, it'll increase your damage 20. I think it's 20, 40, 60, and so on and so forth. However, the only way to do it is to fly up through it, which means you have to spend one of your wings. Now, something I forgot to mention is when you do grab the wings, you get 3 applications of this, meaning you get 3 extra, 3 abilities to fly. However, I believe it's after a minute if you haven't used your wings, and you go down to one of the lower nests and kill the adds down there and get one of the other feathers, you can actually re-up the application again. So if you're down to 1 and you haven't flown for a minute, and then you pick it up, you'll actually get back up to 3. However, if you fly to a nest and then a feather drops and it hasn't been a minute, and you've already used one, you'll still only have 2. You won't actually go back up to 3 unless it's been a minute. So that's something to keep in mind, and make sure you keep count of how many wings you've used, because you will have to fly up to the upper nests. Like I said, you usually do the first lower 3, and like I said, each nest that is active will be red, have like a red beam on it. You'll know which one it is. So just watch out for that. Now, the upper nests are a little bit different. Is when you get up to the nest, the upper nest, you'll have 2 eggs called the mature egg of Ji-Kun. Now, basically, these are just eggs. If you're fast enough and your DPS is high enough, you'll just kill the eggs and that'll be it. But for some reason, if you don't have enough DPS and you don't, a juvenile will hatch from this egg. And these will become a really large problem at the later end of the fight, especially if you have a bunch of them up. Basically, they will just circle around the raid during the entire fight, and they will just rain down damage on the raid. 1 or 2 is not terrible. In fact, you're probably going to have a couple, but having any more than that is going to cause a slight problem. So at least on the upper nest, you definitely want to kill them before they either hatch or before they fly away. Now, there is one nest that's directly in the middle of the platform, like if you look straight up, and it's way up there. Most of the time, you're probably going to ignore that one. And what's going to happen is just one of the eggs up there are going to hatch, and you're going to have juveniles flying around. Again, that's why I said you're at least going to have 2 of them flying around. That's not a big deal, but the upper nest that you do fly to, you definitely don't want those to hatch. And basically what's going to happen is once you've done the upper 2 nests, you'll just jump down from the upper nest. Don't use your wings to fly down, because you definitely don't want to use that wing to do that. You want to save that for either getting the nutrient or flying to one of the other nests that you can't get to. So just wait. Basically what's going to happen, normally with the order that will happen is when you're up in the upper nests, kill the eggs, she's going to cast downdraft. Just wait till that happens, and then jump down to the platform, and then do some DPS time on the boss to the next nest spawn. And then it'll go the 3 lower, the 2 upper. Now, basically, usually what will happen, obviously depending on your raid's DPS, I think it's the 8th or 9th nest will be your last. And the boss should be roughly 25-ish%. At this point, you pretty much just want to stay on the boss, meaning you don't want to fly to the other nests. You just want to burn the boss down. So just, if you do have any of the wing application and she does the Feed Young ability, you can fly up, intercept it to grab the nutrient buff to get the extra damage. If you don't, then just obviously just focus on the boss, and make sure you're watching for quills and downdraft and stuff like that, and just burn the boss down. But that's pretty much it. It's not really a complicated fight in and of itself, especially even if you're on the nest, you'll get a feel for the rotation of the nest and the best way to get there, and how to when and when not to use your feathers and stuff like that. It takes a few attempts to get used to it, but once you do, it's not that bad. Like I said, the quills, just make sure you don't fly away too fast if you're on the nests, to make sure your healer's getting you heals before you go anywhere. Definitely make sure they don't hatch into juveniles if you can help it, because that's just going to cause a lot more damage during the fight. Be very aware of downdraft, because there are times when you're going to fly down, or even fly up from a nest, I should say, and downdraft will go off and you might be right on the edge and get blown off. So just keep a real good eye on your timer. It's happened to me a couple times. I just wasn't paying attention and got blown off. It happens. Quills, definitely keep an eye on the quills timer. Make sure you're using your deterrents if you're able to do it. Now, if you're on the nest, you're probably not going to have that option. If you're trying to kill the ads fast enough, and taking time to, 5 seconds to deter the damage is not really cost effective. Definitely want to kill the ads first before you worry, but your healer should be able to heal you and the other DPS just fine. But that's pretty much it for this fight. Hopefully you found the video helpful. If you did, give it a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, concerns, complaints, just leave them in the comments down below. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you later.